Delighted to be joined by François Mitjavile, who is in Bordeaux, in Saint-Emilion. François, lovely to see you, albeit over Zoom. We were hoping when we did this last year that it would be just 1 year of Zoom tastings for Bordeaux. But no, it's not, another year again. But so I wanted just really to have a word and for you to say a few things for our customers about your wines in 2020. How was 2020? And speak to us a little bit about the vintage.
Well, I have to make a difference between Tertre Boeuf, Roc de Cambre, and Domaine de Cambre. You know, there are some vintages where the climate and the rain makes that everything is homogeneous in Bordeaux, and you can define a real character of the vintage. Yeah. But this year, the character is different. Some years, Roc de Cambre, Tertre Boeuf, they are brothers of the same family. This year, we had some extremely hard hitness moments in August and mid-end August, September, and it made something rather violent that explains that the terroir of Tertre Boeuf, which is somewhat interior climate, supported this strong wave much more violently than Roc de Cambre and Domaine de Cambre, which are alongside the estuary of Gironde in a, you could say, more Atlantic temperated climate. Okay. So if we try to define it within some words, Tertre Boeuf appears with extreme maturity, profound, deep, quite voluptuous, and something sumptuous in the flavors, you know, due to these little fruits which had these strong heat waves and a few rain before the harvest. Roc de Cambre, the climate was more regular, temperated by the Atlantic, so it matured a little bit more slowly, and it had more rain before the harvest. So at the same time, the rain tenderized the polyphenol that came really expressive, aromatic, gentle, and it doesn't mean light, you know. To be tenderness doesn't mean that it lacks of density at all. It can be very dense in tender flavors. Just to say that in Roc de Cambre by opposition and Roc de Cambre by opposition to Tertre Boeuf, you have something which is more, you could say, more elegant. It doesn't mean superior. We have not to be moralistic of the taste, you know. Moralistic people are dangerous enough in the life generally. So say that if Tertre Boeuf is profound and sumptuous, Roc de Cambre is something tender, gentle, elegant, and dense in a different type of flavors, you know. That's what we could say, and the ripeness more on red fruit might be a little bit grilled, and Tertre Boeuf more opulent, quite black fruit, a little bit confit, you know. So we could say that these are the difference between these two vintages as a general point of view. In this vintage, in our properties, the acidity is quite low. The wine is very voluptuous, very supple, and it's a character vintage that will age a long time, surely, because it's rich. But anyway, soon at the bottling time, it will have started really on the tertiary aromas. It will be extremely approachable in the evolution of the flavors as soon as it will be very young, you know. That's the main character of the vintage.
Okay, and does that remind you at the separate estates? Does that remind you of any other vintages particularly? Does Tertre Boeuf 2020 remind you?
Yes, I am really really. Moreover, for the, you know, generally vintages are never the same because the nature gives an incredible variety of characters. Sometimes it happens, you can say this vintage reminds that or that. This year, I am absolutely unable. You have to imagine the heat wave in the summer were so violent that there were leaves falling on the vineyard, you know, because it came too dry. And the rain before the harvest, it made a very specific and very strange character of vintage that that gives a really poetic emotion. It's its flavors, but I'm really unable to trace a vintage of this style in my life.
Okay, and we've spoken with some people who've talked about how important in 2020, because of the heat you talk about, how important retention of water in the soils. So was that an important thing, and you have a unique terroir at Tertre-Haute-Boeuf for retaining the water?
Oui, that is a very important question. You know that in the countries that Bush Jr. would have said the old world, we are in the old world, we are very sensitive to the spirituality linked with the wine, which was, you could say, an Occidental drug, the blood of the Christ, or the fabulous mythos of Dionysos, the disorder of the life. And for this reason, through all Occidental history, tasters and people who loved wine wanted the wine to present something extremely pure. It was the growth, where it grows, forbidden to buy fruits, forbidden to irrigate. You know, you can irrigate or you can buy fruit in the States or in Australia, not in the great wines in the old Europe. And no, just to say that the terroir is extremely important, and the fact that the type of soil can, in the same time, like a sponge, can absorb the strong waters, and like a sponge too can remain fresh during the hard moment of the sun, is something extremely important, specifically in difficult vintages like 2020, when you had a very rainy spring and a very dry and hot summer. Then obviously it's a great terroir where you have the rock that absorbs the water, and afterwards that delivers very very slowly, the roots succeed slowly during the drought of the summer, and give it, and it helps a more refined and more harmony, balanced in the maturation of the fruit. So that is very important, and certainly this kind of years, terroir of what we say argilo-calcaire, clay or limestone, are fabulous terroir for this kind of vintage, certainly. And you can have in difficult terroirs, in this difficult vintage, you can have sometimes wines that can be a little bit hard and difficult to get the ripeness you need, you know.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes good sense. And moving to 2021, sorry, because people will want to know, how were you affected by the frosts?
Not at all, master. You know, none of the quality of a terroir. You know, we have not to forget that wine is a produce of peasants, and peasants, they are pragmatic. And when they say this is a great terroir, it means they used to say in past generation, it gives good every year. And a great terroir, the greatest terroir, do not frost, generally do not have hail, and can cross growing old, the vineyard remaining in good, healthy condition with profit and profitable, by the way, you know. And we did not frost, specifically too, we did not frost in 2017, and we had fabulous wines with a very gentle character. No, we are very happy on this point of view. The last frost we had, it was a terrible one, it was in 91.
Yes.
And even Roque de Camp did not frost in 91. That's quite strange.
So we always ask one slightly strange question, and this year it was, what car would 2020 be, of your wines in 2020 be? But you can answer with a piece of music or a film or anything. But if you had to take something that showed the character of the 2020 Tertre-Haute-Boeuf Roque de Camp, what would you say?
I am much disturbed by this kind of comparison, you know, and specifically, I have to say, I don't know anything about cars, but the fact that they have to be comfortable. So I am unable, you know, but if I could try, if I could attempt to say something with the music, which is anyway extremely pretentious, I would try to say might be le Brandbourgeois concert, you know, voilà.
Right, yeah.
Might be that, voilà. Might be, you know, because it's a profound and it's so difficult to say things.
Yeah,
like
I know. No, I know. And finally, is there a particular vintage of Roc de Combe and of Turtle-Rote-Boeuf that you are enjoying drinking at the moment? Even maybe a younger vintage, but is there a particular vintage you think is especially good right now?
In young vintages,
Yeah.
at this point, I'm quite excited by 2017. So graceful, so tender, and so dense in expressive tenderness flavors. I'm not fanatic about powerful wines, you know. And more I grow old, I have to say, more I love old vintages. And now, one vintage I am discovering recently, I am extremely surprised. It's 96. Another vintage I like very much to taste. 96. I was not expecting it would recome so beautifully in these days. You know, it's really charming. And in another type of vintage, I love 97, and
Yes.
I like very much 82. I should try to taste 83 next as soon as I can. You know.
Well, you are not too far from where a few bottles are lying, I'm sure. So, no. Well, Francois, that is absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for your insights, and we really hope this won't be a trio, and that next year we will be with you in Saint-Emilion in April. But thank you so much indeed, and keep up the good work. We love the wines, and so do our customers. Brilliant.
Merci, Will.